Hello, I'm Cheryl and welcome to my sewing room. This is the 12th and last video in the Beginners Sampler Quilt. Remember, I'm going to take you through all the steps to complete this quilt. Now, if you're just getting started and you want to review all of the other blocks that are involved in this quilt, click on the playlist at the very end of the video. It'll be in the upper right hand corner. So let's take a look at the 12th block. It's called Hole in the Barn Door. It's a very classic quilt block and you'll see it used a lot. Now you start off with a 6.5 inch square in the middle, then you've got these two little strips on each side and a half square triangle in all four corners. Okay, a quick block to make, won't take you too long. I'll show you some easy, efficient steps to finish it up quickly. All right, this is the cutting instructions and block layout. All of the block sizes are 12.5 inch square, all of them. I'm just using two of my fabrics, and if you're just catching up, I have 3 fabrics I selected for this quilt. I don't always use all 3 in each block, but remember, it's your quilt. You can use as many fabrics in each block as you like. All right, fabric B, you'll need one 2.5 inch wide strip, and then you're going to need 2 4.5 inch squares, and fabric C you'll need one 6.5 inch square. Also out of fabric C, one 2 inch wide strip and 2 4.5 inch squares. Now if you've never cut out strips and squares and rectangles, watch the video Tips for Cutting Quilt Fabric, and I show you a really efficient, fast way of cutting out things so that you're not cutting out one little tiny piece at a time. This is the block layout. The letters in each of the areas represents the fabric that is placed there. So this is C fabric, B fabric. Okay? All right, let's get started. Take your your two of each of your fabric C and fabric B. You're going to pair them up, okay? On the lightest fabric that you're using, on the back side of the fabric, draw lines from from corner to corner, and then draw a line. Then you're going to draw 2 more lines on each side of that center line, 1/4 inch away. So place your 1/4 inch line on the center line. Place it on there and then draw a line. Do the same thing on the other side. Place your 1/4 inch line on that center line and draw a line. Okay, now make sure you have a fabric C and B together, right sides together, and the 2 outer lines are your stitch lines. So stitch on each of the 2 outer lines. Then take your ruler, place it back on that center line, and then cut the block in half. Okay? Now you've made 2 of these, all right? So now you're going to wind up with 4 half square triangles. On all of the half square triangles, have the dark side facing up, and it's still folded in half, and press. So press all your seams on the back side with this side facing up. Then open up all 4 of them, press on the top of the seam, pushing this seam towards the dark side of the half square triangle. Okay? After you've done all 4, then you're going to square all 4 up to 3.5 inches square. Right now it's roughly 4 inches. Now, it's much easier to square a block if you're using a square ruler. I recommend you purchase a 12.5 inch square ruler, and it will help you get through this entire project. All right, so on that square ruler is a diagonal line right here. You're going to place it on this seam. So place your line on there. Now, make sure you have fabric hanging out past here and here, these two sides, there should be excess fabric. Then here's the 3.5 inch line here and here. Make sure there's excess fabric hanging out on each side. Now with your rotary cutter, you're going to cut 2 sides. Okay? And that's the last side. Now you're going to turn this block, right? Place your 3.5 inch line here and here, right on the 2 previously cut edges, the edges that we just trimmed. There they are. Also, make sure your diagonal line is still right here on that seam. Okay, so once you've got all that lined up, then cut your last 2 sides. Now you're going to square all 4 of your half square triangles, all 4 of them. Okay, so now you're going to take and put your strips together. All right, so usually what I do on my strips, they're still folded, okay? I'm going to lay the fabric B and C strips right on top of each other, okay? And here's my folded ends right there. So I've got them laying on top. Now this white part you see here is called selvage. And you want to just cut that off. So don't worry if it's a beautiful straight cut, just a rough cut. Cut off those selvages, okay? And then where your 2 folded ends are, I don't want them to be attached, so I'm just going to cut a little tiny bit off there. Okay, so now you have 4 strips. So take both of your strips and pair them up with a B and a C and bring right sides together. Now line up those edges really good and pin it across here, and then stitch 1/4 inch. Now you're making 2 of these, okay? After you've made them, you want to press on the back side of the seam. Now keep it folded and have the darkest side facing up at you. With your iron, press on that seam, get it nice and flat. Then unfold it, okay, and press on the top, press on the top, pushing this seam towards the darkest side all the way across, okay? Now you're going to cut 6.5 inch length pieces from this. But before you do that, you want to straighten up your edges. Okay, so place your ruler on there. And here is my 1 3/4 inch line on the ruler. I'm going to place that right on top of the seam because I want to make sure everything is straight. Then you're just going to trim that one end so that it's straight. Okay? All right, let me do just a little bit more. There we go. Okay, now turn it to where it's at the opposite side of you. Now here's my cut edge I just trimmed off. On the ruler, place your 6.5 inch line down here on that previously cut edge. Also make sure your 1 3/4 inch line is still on that seam. Okay? Line it all up, then cut. All right? And then just move it on down, line it up again, place that 1 3/4 inch line on there, and you're going to just keep going till there's no more fabric. Okay? Now, you're going to be able to get one more out of your second set strip. Okay, whatever you have left over, save it for another project. Put it in your scrap pile. Okay, so remember you need 4 of those. So now let's lay everything out. So place your square out first, your 6.5 inch square of fabric C. Now take your strips that you just made, and you're going to place it on each side of that square with your fabric B up against the center square. Okay, so there you go. 2 more. Last one. Okay, now take your 4 half square triangles and place it in each corner with fabric B in towards the center. Okay? 1 more. Okay, now you're going to take each row and stitch the pieces together. This row, then this row, then this row. Now lay the 2 outer pieces on top. Okay? Line up your edges here and pin and stitch 1/4 inch. Then go to the next row and pin and stitch 1/4 inch here, and then again on this row. Pin and stitch 1/4 inch here and here. All right, so now your rows are going to look like this. You're going to open this center row. I'm going to open it up. There you go. And then the 2 outer rows. Open them up. Okay, now I'm going to flip them over because I want you to look at the seams. Okay, now here are the seams that we just stitched right here. Okay, when we're pressing these, you're always going to press on the back side first. But when we go to press on top, the center row seams are going to go towards, away from the block, towards this darker strip. But on the 2 outer rows, these 2 seams are going to go in towards the center. Okay, so first press your seams. You're going to keep it folded like this and press. Do this on all of them. Then when you go to press the 2 outer rows, what I want to do is have you hold the middle of the block up, the middle of the block right here. And you're going, as you press the seam on top, you're going to push this seam away, towards the center, pushing it that way. Then turn it and do the same thing on the other side. Press on top, pushing this seam towards the center strip. Now your center block, always again, press your seams on the back side, keeping it folded. Then keep the end of the row lifted slightly, push against this seam, pressing it away from the center, and do the same thing over here. And then of course, repeat the pressing on this last row, okay? So then you have everything stitched together. Now you're going to take the last 2, lay them on top of the center row, and now I'm going to move this back just a little. Now you're going to match your seams first. So make sure that the seam on the bottom is going in the opposite direction of the one on top. And the reason why you want to do that is your block will lay flatter and it won't be as crooked if you do it this way. So always pin your seams when you're matching them like this. Pin this one also. Finish pinning across and then stitch 1/4 inch. And then do the same thing on the last row. Match your seams, pin them, pin across, stitch 1/4 inch across. And then one more step, okay? Now you're going to leave your rows still folded in like this. And, excuse me, I've got it turned the wrong way. There we go. You've just stitched along here. Leave it folded like this and press on the back side. Then lift it up, press on the top side, pushing this seam all the way across, out and away from the center of the block. And do the same thing on this row. Press on the back side and then press on the top, pushing this seam out away from the center of the block. Okay? Isn't this a fun block? It's a really nice block to work with. I think you're really going to enjoy it. Okay, well, I hope you decide to take this project on, and don't forget to click on the playlist at the very end of the video. Now, the next video is we're going to go over how to square up all the blocks, because I'm sure if you've been squaring them as you've gone along, you realize that maybe not all of them came out to 12 and a half. Some might came out to 12 and 3/8 or 12 and 5/8. They came out. If it was way off, you probably need to rebuild that block, okay? So we're gonna go over the squaring, then I'm gonna explain to you how to go about laying all the blocks out in an eye-appealing pattern, and then we'll put on the sashing. And I'm gonna be using the sashing in my video called Quilt Sashing Lesson 1. So if you want to go ahead and review that so that you know what's coming up. Now, to keep informed on all my future videos, click on one of my subscribe buttons. The one in the upper left-hand corner comes up towards the end of the video. It's a round picture of my face. You can click on that one. But throughout the entire video is one down in the lower right-hand corner. It's red and it says subscribe. So click on that one at any time. YouTube will then prompt you for your email address. Enter that information, and the next time I have a new video, YouTube sends you an email with a big button in the center. You click on it and it takes you directly to my latest video. I'm Cheryl, and I'm really glad you came to my sewing room, and I'll see you next time, and happy sewing.